Thank you, David. Welcome, and thank you for accepting to speak today. Before we start, do you mind just describing your role at Revolut to everybody in the room?
Yeah, sure. So, hi everyone. I'm David. I've been at Revolut for 5 years, which we count in sort of door gears, so it feels like 20. My role is infrastructure and AI lead. So I manage the deployment of all of our cloud infrastructure and AI infrastructure, including GPUs. I deal with all of our frontier labs for deploying the latest models. And I also manage all of the internal tooling that we have in the company.
Thank you. So with that in mind, obviously we're here to talk about AI, and looking back at the outset of how it all started at Revolut, what do you think it was the foundational problem or challenge, opportunities that you were looking at addressing when you kickstarted the AI adoption there?
So to answer, we have to split it in two. So split between AI for customer-oriented solution and internal productivity. So for customer-oriented solution, the natural path that many companies saw is, okay, we have some cost lines that are scaling one-to-one with our customers. So for instance, chat supports. And with AI, we can decouple that trend. So we can scale much more. We can have better NPS for our customers, so they're happier because they have better resolution. And yeah, we can reduce cost. So that was the natural adoption. So we created our first AI product we called Rita, which is our AI agent, support agent. We built it as a test, and we saw that we had 35% retention. So retention means the AI is able to solve the customer's problem without escalating to a human. So I say, okay, we can scale this. We put some data scientists behind it, and today we're close to 80% retention. The rule of thumb we have in Revolut for our scale today, every 1% retention is $500,000 in savings.
And do you think, looking back and using that example, do you think that your strategy has evolved or changed dramatically from when you started? And, how do you feel the journey has been with the evolution from looking at that evolution of that use case?
Yeah, so originally the way we approached AI in Revolut was very centralized. So we had an AI department that had the knowledge on how to build products and things, and they built everything. Quickly, we realized that this was not scalable. We had more initiatives that we wanted to pursue. And so we did the typical Revolut thing, which is we built systems, framework, and playbook that we made available to everyone. And now what we're seeing is instead of people asking our AI department to build something for them, we have organic initiatives that are created by each department. Yeah.
And actually, that's an interesting point, because my next question is going to be around prioritization. So, if you give AI to the hands of everybody or as wide possible population at Revolut, how then do you go about prioritizing where you invest your resources, time, and budget? And what you talked a little bit about that already, but if you could just elaborate on the framework and the criteria around that once you prioritize and decide what to prioritize.
So you have two types of initiative. You have company-wide initiatives that are big. They come from the top, so we put resources behind them. We want to automate this part of the company. We want to replace it with AI, and so you create a team, you put resources behind it, and it's very top-down. The other part is the organic part. So it's your finance department can optimize their reconciliation by using AI. And this one, what we found is you can't really force it. If you try to push a team to optimize something that they're not ready to do, they drag their feet, and you don't get great productivity. So what you do is you trust that you have good people, you set ambitious targets, and eventually they come to the natural conclusion that they could use AI for this implementation. Now, in terms of the framework and the tool, what we built is we built an internal LLM gateway with a machine learning operations platform, which makes it that anyone technical or non-technical can deploy AI models, iterate with tooling. It has embedded evals, so people can score the performance of the model, historical performance. And then we have a framework on how to assess if the AI is performing well. So we give people freedom to experiment. They can request a budget. And then a few months down, we go and we check if they meet their targets. and if the product is worth helping, improving, or if we just have to kill it.
And you use that framework also in the business case and putting together before you go to market, product, feature, or whatever it is using.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Everything is a business case in Revolut.
Yeah. A different example, you talked about the chatbot, and that's very, very relevant as being a customer-facing one. Could you think or give us another example where you've seen an AI solution that you got a lot of value out of, or unexpected even, or really significant value out of that is outside of the customer framework, customer space?
So one that is very impressive to this day is our FinCrime agent. So we have a fully agentic FinCrime agent in Revolut that does FinCrime investigation on its own. So whenever, for instance, it flags a suspicious transaction, it's going to query our SQL database to look at transaction history, it's going to read customer record, and then now it's at a point where it also makes decision to sanction the transaction of both the user or not. So today, this agent takes autonomously over 80,000 tasks per day that used to be done manually by a human. And every day, we're expanding the set of tools that this agent has access to. So we've seen 3 benefits to this one. One that we were expecting, and 2 that came sort of a surprise, second order. So the first one was, okay, obviously cost. FinCrime and compliance is a scaling issue that all banks are facing. So the more customers you have, the more volume you have, the more you need to hire agents. So we solved that problem with AI.
Sorry to interrupt, but do you have any metrics on that? So you see a significant change in resources?
You could look at our annual reports, and you can see that that were released last week. You can see that the number of support agent and FinCrime agents has decreased last year, even though our customer numbers increased 40%. And so the other 2 benefits that we didn't expect was, one, the regulators loved it. You would expect regulators not to be happy with AI and black box, but what they found out is the agent applies the policy and the framework that the regulator reviews to the letter. And there's no deviation with the framework and the policy, and we can prove systematically that we apply what the regulator expects without any human error. So they really, really loved it. The third benefit is for customer satisfaction. So whenever you make a transaction that is flagged as suspicious, instead of waiting for 2 weeks for an agent to pick up your case and investigate and eventually release the transaction, and now your resolution time is much shorter, so we have higher NPS.
That is quite impressive, and I think, with the FinCrime is really your biggest department, right, at Revolut. So what you expected to do in that area for the type of business you have, but also in terms of impact on your business is significant. So thank you for that. And do you see a clear strategy on continuing with agents within FinCrime, but also improve or being a bit of a benchmark? Because I think there has been quite a lot of chatter around how good you guys build your own systems and how good you are build your own things. Do you feel not from a regulatory perspective, but more from other customers and competitors that they look at Revolut as to state-of-the-art tech?
Yeah, I'm not sure what competitors do on that space. We don't really share notes. I know that to achieve the level of performance that we have with these FinCrime agents, we really had to build everything ourselves. So we couldn't use an agentic framework. We had to build our own. We had to build our own orchestration layer. And so Revolut has a strong engineering culture, and our default is to build, so we're not tied to outsourced process. So that would be the way that we recommend other people do it as well.
Yeah, and actually it's linked to my next question around, operating at huge scale that you guys do globally, and you process a lot of sensitive financial data, and that's only going to increase. So with that context, what do you think has been really the biggest hurdles that you've had in building the robust, scalable, secure and trustworthy AI solutions that you have, and particularly around security, data quality, and the explainability of models?
Yeah, so first, the industry has matured a lot. A year ago, 6 months ago, even, every time you mentioned you were building something with AI, legal wasn't happy, compliance was scared, regulators were worried, and it was a nightmare. So now every contract product that you use, any model provider has zero data retention, EU residency, data privacy assessment, and so this takes care of most of the worry. Now, you still need internal governance to assess model performance, and so this is part of our MLOps platform. Anyone that creates an AI use case logs what they're going to use the model for, how they're going to assess performance, and it's part of the automated governance of Revolut to make sure that the model doesn't deviate. It performs as expected in the evals, and yeah, the unit test works. So it's part of the process.
And touching on the change in different teams and how they had to work together, how do you feel that it changed the culture of the company? Because you've always been very, tech advanced and really ahead of its time compared to the industry in general. But there must have been some change in culture with departments working together or having that view. How do you feel that changed over the last few years with AI adoption?
So we always had a very open engineering culture in Revolut, where engineers come on Slack and they have open discussion with, I'm building the structure, I'm building this framework, do you guys have an opinion on how I should build this? And this has expanded to AI, so there's a lot of knowledge sharing on how to reuse frameworks that people have built or how to optimize models. And engineers really enjoy working with AI, so they're also seeing it as fun.
What about the non-technical people?
So that's the least expected group of people that contribute the most to AI. You have operations manager, people that know a bit of SQL, but that's it. Really what they do is slides and Excel that discover AI. And because with AI, they can effectively code when they couldn't. They have a lot of amazing ideas that now they could build and deploy properly. That we didn't expect. And they have a different perspective on the business that an engineer doesn't have. And so they created a very, very original solution. And sort of the strongest proponents of AI that are working with me every day are non-technical people.
How is the competition, the kind of positive competition between teams to come up with ideas and put them in production? How does that work at Revolut?
So we don't really have rankings or budget. Anyone who has an idea makes a system design review, a business case. We review it, we approve it, and then the goal is that they build it very fast, and either it works or it fails fast.
I think looking ahead, and I know how tricky it is sometimes to, with AI to look at 5 years ahead, but if we look more on the longer term, or even from now to 5 years from now, how do you think that AI will transform even more the customer experience for Revolut? You're obviously launching in so many countries, you have a global expansion target, so it's very ambitious. And I believe that AI is a big part of it. So what do you anticipate there will be new offerings or new solutions that could enable and could help that are not there yet today?
So future is going to be, at least for FinTech, is going to be about building more customer-facing solution. And that's the one that everyone is scared of building because it's a very different set of requirements. So whenever you put an AI in front of a customer, what matters is not so much precision, it's latency. No one wants to sit watching an AI model think for more than 3 seconds. You drop in NPS, so our goal is sub 1 second for anything that is customer-facing. If you're part of the Revolut Alpha or you're part of the A/B test group, you already can test our AI assistant. So it's a tool that you have inside the app. You have access to it on the front page, and you can ask it basic question as, how much did I spend on beer last month? Or can you analyze my spend habits and tell me how I can save more, right? So technically, the challenge of this is, how do you get to 300 tokens per second, sub 500 milliseconds latency? while also preventing user from prompt injecting your model and then making fun of you online. And so you have this balance of you need to use very smart models, but not rely too much on inference time scaling so that it's still very quick. So that's one. Another one that I can think of that we're discussing with most of the partners, and we're trying to set, basic format for the rest of the industry standards, is going to be agentic banking. So it started a lot talking about agentic commerce, right? I think this is starting to be well established. Next step is going to be agentic shopping, and then fully agentic banking. So today, we found out that we have Revolut X, which is our Revolut trading platform. We have people that build trading strategies on Cloud Code and push them directly to our trading platform via our MCP. We believe there's going to be an extension of that where you're going to be connected to your favorite AI chatbot, and you can ask it to trigger a payment or buy Bitcoin for you or save money for you.
And do you have any teams? Obviously, the verticals and the products are very independent at Revolut, but do you have any teams that are looking at things that could be, or things that you could create, or things that could come up that could involve some of the teams, but like works across teams really to look at potential new use cases that could be transformational in the future? Or is this very much per vertical, per product team, siloed?
So for things like this that we consider as new bets, they are their own team. And so they're under more scrutiny, so they're present because they require a lot of budget, a lot of funding. So we spend more time reviewing what they want to do. And these teams are, their own vertical. And
they work across all product verticals from Revolut?
Yeah, across payment, acquiring, cards, customer experience, yes.
And how do they develop those ideas? Do they create and get to an MVP level, or do they then pass it on to different verticals?
So we start with either we have a problem that we want to fix for our user, or we see an opportunity to deliver better service to our customer, and then we find the solution that could work. We build it, we get to MVP stage fairly easily. The struggle that we're having now, if we can say struggle, is we may be too far ahead for the industry that are not ready to implement the solution. They still want guardrails, human in the loops, so we're not there yet.
Yeah, and I think it's been public, but we've seen in the media publicly talking about the New Bets team and how they delivered some really successful products for Revolut. So I think, it will be really interesting to see what comes out of that next. Right, well, that's it for us. Thank you very much, David. And thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it.